This is Prime Sports NASCAR on Prime Sports Network. And thank goodness this week is over. Actually, thank goodness the race is over.
Yeah.
And isn't it? We're going to have a field day with the off season because when we have time to go over clips, time to go over all the things that didn't work for NASCAR this season, the compilations we're going to be able to put up, and the commentary and the analysis is going to be a lot of fun. And this one is probably going to lead the charge. I mean, have you guys heard anybody this week? Because if you haven't, I'm sure it's out there. But the outcry has got to be loud enough. How on earth do you allow the Xfinity race to get to finish, and then you have your biggest prize, your cup race, gets rain delayed? We've talked about it over and over and over again with the rain and what you can do if you put the races on earlier. And there's so many things you can do. But the biggest slap in the face was the truck race that was able to get through. And they feel. I mean, it just I don't know. It makes no sense, guys. I mean, I'm speechless here. I can't believe they're that dumb.
Yeah, it would have been very easy just to swap the starting times. You knew from the weather report. I knew before the race that it was predicted to rain from that day all the way through until Thursday. So number one, they were lucky to get it in last night. But number two, everybody else knew that too. They've got better weather reports than I do. Go out and just make the command decision they screwed around for 3 days saying, oh, it's going to be at 8 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock in the morning. Then it's going to be at 3 o'clock. Then it's going to be at 4 o'clock. Every single one of those was wrong. Why is it wrong? And why are they so against on the actual race day saying a couple of hours before, hey, we know we're scheduled to go at 3, but we're actually going to move it to 12 because the weather looks like crap. We've already got the TV lined up, so that's what we're going to do. Put it on your scroller, put it up in the top corner of your screen, and just let people know. That was painful.
Well, look,
very, very painful.
NASCAR, we're not even going to compete NASCAR ratings with football or any of those other major sports. So let's just compete it with a sport that they can be competed with. Golf. It's the one that we constantly compare them to under this scenario. Golf,
yep.
I haven't seen the ratings, but for most, when you compare the big races versus the big golf events, Eric, I'm pretty sure the golf events went out. So if the golf events get just as good, if not better ratings than NASCAR, then why can't NASCAR follow golf's lead? Why does NASCAR have to feel that they're above golf? Oh, we can't have our race tape delayed. God forbid. If golf can do it, so can NASCAR.
Yeah, they need to start everything at noon or 12:30, like locally, wherever they're at. And yeah, this came back and bit them again because of this. We talk about this a lot. I mean, Talladega in June happened like this. The Daytona 500 was moved to back in February was like this, ran 21 laps and kind of come back the next day. Well, if you started at noon, we would have got it in. So yeah, they need to really with next year as we're going through 27, I believe, one-day shows, maybe 28. Can we put the cup race first, and then you kind of eliminate all this, like, because that's what came back. CJ said came back and bit him was he ran the truck race at noon or 11, run the cup race at noon. You're not going against the NFL at that time, and you're at this time of year anyways. No matter what, you're going against them in some way or shape or form. Run it at noon on NBCSN. Get the race over with, and if the trucks are bumped and they're the ones dealing with this, then it's an afterthought because your main series shouldn't be having to wait 4 days to get a race in. Those other guys, you could have figured it out. This one, no. I mean, there's contracts in place. Martinsville has to be the last race of this round, and if you would have kept going, now Martinsville gets bumped back later. Now you're really rushing to get the Phoenix. So yeah, it was an embarrassment all around. If you would have just started the race earlier, you would have got it in, and it's all over.
What was the schedule like 15 years ago, 20 years ago? When did they used to race?
Noon.
I have a T-shirt that says the fire credit at like 10 a.m.
10 a.m. Yep.
Okay.
Always in before the storms came in the afternoon. Yep.
So why can't they, especially during the football season, why can't they do that? What is it? I mean, the ratings are not, and how do they know that it won't work? They haven't done it in like 10 or 15 years. So much has changed in 10 or 15 years. So why don't you give it a try? Why don't you say, you know what? Once we get to the football season, and look, we're going to start in the summer, we're going to start at 12. But when we get to the football season, we're going to start at 10. Because we're going to have the audience all to ourselves. And when our race ends, football will begin. And then, why can't they try that?
I think they're. I kind of wonder how legitimate their fan council polls are. That's like election polls. It seems like you keep hearing one candidate's going to run away with it. It always ends up being different. And their fan polls say that fans want later starts, and the West Coast fans, and we want dirt at Bristol. I'm like, yeah, it's like everybody else, all the fans are saying. So
I'm an East Coast guy. I would love NASCAR to start at 10 o'clock, but a West Coast guy is going to say that they don't want the race starting at 10 o'clock.
Well, I don't know what West Coast guys are even talking about, because every West Coast guy I hear is like, I would rather have them start in the morning. I'm like, so who are you talking to? Where are you coming up with these facts and these things from the fan council? Because every West Coast fan that you put out there, like, hey, we need earlier start times, they agree with you. They would rather wake up and have their race or sporting events in the morning and go on with their day. They're basically said they're still not watching. They don't want their race at lunchtime or after. West Coast people want to have the race in the morning and move on, not have the race in the middle of the day. Like, don't cater to us. So I think that's part of the ratings drop, is they're throwing all their eggs in the West Coast basket, and they're not picking up the slack from the loss of the East Coast, which majority of your fan base is in anyways, because you're starting so late and you're not getting those fans. You're losing out and you're not gaining them out west. So, yeah, I think the West Coast fans even said make it sooner. So I don't know what fan council that they keep saying is voting for these changes, because that they're lying to them. It's like, are you just purposely going out and get your fans to make your narrative, because it's false. Most people want the races.
I think another problem, CJ, is that there's the only programming, the only coverage that this sport gets are basically people that will more than likely kiss NASCAR's ass at every opportunity. So they don't have a popular weekly, daily type of good programming where people will speak their minds, people with credible long history in the sport that will come out and say these things. And if NASCAR doesn't hear that, then this is why they're just going to continue, I guess, to do what they want to do. But that just also goes to show that the people who are running NASCAR and making these decisions, I don't think they're very smart.
No, I would agree. I question, maybe not that they're not smart, but they probably don't question facts, the supposed facts, I think, that they're being presented with. Because like Eric said, when they came back and pushed all the race starts to like 3 or 4 p.m. except for just a couple, I was beside myself thinking, how are you're going to go up against 4 o'clock football, the West Coast football? You've got everybody in the East Coast that wants to go about their day. Nobody's going to watch. Your ratings are going to fall off a cliff. And then they backed it up by said that they made that decision because it was backed up by, like Eric said, some kind of fan poll that was done on, like, I never got a fan poll. I never got to answer anything. And I got to believe, just as Eric said, the people that I've talked to and the people that I interact with around the sport, all of them dislike the late start times as well. And unless you're going to do a night race, like on a Saturday night or a Friday night, the later races start, the less people actually watch them live. They end up DVRing them because they've got other stuff they've got to go do. So I don't know that they're not, maybe they are not smart, because they by now they have the data, as you said, to look at the trends and look at the viewership and how it's gone in comparison with other sports, and they're still not changing. But I think they probably have rested their decisions on false facts, things that they just failed to question the legitimacy of.
And I think it's more of maybe just not being, maybe the proper use of the word would be maybe an ignorance towards, again, what their fans really want. Maybe they're too old school. Because obviously for the people who are running, there's so many other things go on with running a sport like this that we're not privy to, and I get it, but then explain it. And we're not hearing that either. I think if we, oh, okay, I didn't know that, then I understand why you're doing what you're doing. But to say things like, well, we had a poll, come on. I mean, nobody's buying any of that. It's just embarrassing. Yeah. And look, Friday nights, you said Saturday nights. Well, I don't think Saturday nights really do. I prefer Saturday night than Sunday in the middle of the day. But Saturday nights, usually you have some pretty good college football games as well. So while I'll take Saturday night over Sunday because I could DVR the Saturday night, get up on Sunday morning and watch it in the morning if I want to, I'd still prefer if you're going to do it at night, do it on Friday night.
Yep, I totally agree with you. Any of the night races, I mean, we had one that went to like 1 o'clock in the morning, if I'm not mistaken, relatively recently. So there was nobody watching. That was entirely DVR'd. Most of the night races, I watch the first 2 stages, and then I DVR the rest, and I wake up and I watch the third stage because, you know, you've got a family, you've got other things you got to do. Life goes on. You can't spend 4 hours of your day watching it. And that's another thing, just the race distances. Like, this was a 500-mile race. A 500-mile race that you knew there was imminent rain around the speedway for the next week. Why not make a command decision, tape delay it? Tape delay would have been the ultimate solution. Just run it. Nobody's there anyway. Well, 1,000 people or however many people were actually there, but just tape delay it and then let the truck guys deal with it, because your marquee event should not have to take 4 days of people wondering. And then throughout the 4 days, how many legitimate updates did they give as to when they were actually looking like they were going to start and be able to do it? They said
that's really
4 times that were wrong.
Because that's what
4 times that were wrong.
I know.
Yes.
And I was telling Eric, and both you guys, let me know when you know the race is going to start, because I'm busy throughout my day and I might miss it because you can't. Sometimes you even put, as we've talked about this before, you put the DirecTV channel on and they don't update it properly enough. And if I don't know and they don't know, then sometimes I'll miss, I was afraid that I could actually miss it. Let's take a look at, so this is how I decided to check out when the race was going to be available. Where is the average fan who is trying to understand, okay, what's the weather update at Texas? What are they saying as far as an update? When are they going to race? Anything, any information I could get after Sunday. This is basically what you got when you went to the NASCAR website. Okay, so you see this thing that says, what does it say? It says something about the weather forecast. So I click there and I see this cartoonish, every hour kind of forecast, overcast, cloudy. And then I see this video box of turn whatever. I don't know what turn that is. And it's it's the turn cam. It's live. So I'm scrolling up and down. I'm seeing a turn cam that's live with nothing there. I see it's dry, by the way. So I'm seeing a dry track, and I am getting only a weather forecast that was basically taken like from the Weather Channel of an hourly kind. That's it. That's all you get. Matter of fact, it was funny because I left it on and I minimized it and I was working on other stuff. And all of a sudden I started hearing noise on my computer. And I'm like, what the hell is that noise? And then I went, wait a second. And I opened up the NASCAR site I was on. And it was because the dryers were passing to the front of the screen, making noise. I was like, oh, this is pathetic. So that's what you got. You had the opportunity to see a video of the dryers going around the track. And again, like I said, every time I looked at that, like for a couple of days, it was always dry. And I was like, I don't see rain here. What's going on? And again, that's it. There was nothing else. There was no messages on the website that tells you anything. How do they do this in today's day and age of technology? There's so much technology in their back pocket and they don't use any of it. This is like 10 years ago, people who were just not with it.
I had to scroll for like 10, 15 minutes on Twitter to find somebody who was even close to the track that could say whether or not track drying was underway or not. Within the last 60 minutes. It was impossible, exactly as you said, impossible to find information. They have Twitter, they have Instagram. They need to start using it. Give somebody, give us the updates. Because like you said, if I hadn't been watching it like a hawk, I would have missed it. Absolutely. And that turn 2 cam, the only time I got to look at it, it looked dry, but I could see the air titans were out there still, so I knew nothing was going on. But yeah, it's effectively worthless.
All right, so they finally got underway after Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin got into trouble early in the race on Sunday. Harvick was still able, and Hamlin, they both finished the race, but they were never in contention after that. But they still are in a good position again as far as getting to the Final Four. And really, I guess to no surprise, Kyle Busch ends up winning the race. I don't know, you just had to feel that would happen. And we even talked about that, texting back and forth, that chances are we're probably going to get something weird happening. And sure enough, a non-playoff driver won. And Eric, you've talked a lot over the last couple of months about how non-playoff drivers just don't win playoff races. Mm-hmm. Well, Kyle Busch, and again, he was a playoff driver for a little while, but not in the final 8. And then when he won, it was one of those things that was actually, he was getting the luck that he didn't get maybe earlier in the year. So, of course, Kyle Busch is going to get some luck this week in this race situation. Yeah. And it kind of screwed Martin Truex Jr. because Martin Truex Jr. clearly had the best car yesterday.
Yeah, just goes to show a strategy pit call race, gets into the front, and didn't give the lead back up. Truex did have the quickest car, but it just goes to show. I'm glad there's no team orders in NASCAR, and it shows you how hard it is to win these races, and for your sponsors that Kyle didn't give the lead up. I mean, he had nothing to gain other than pleasing his sponsors. He's not in the playoffs anymore, to where Truex, you may let him win, because now Truex is 36 points below the cut line and has to win this Sunday, or he's not in the championship 4. Kyle took the win. I mean, you got to take the win when it's there, but yeah, Truex had a better car, and they even mentioned after the race that this race was one lap longer. Kyle's running out of fuel. He said he ran out coming to the burnout, that he had no fuel left.
Would he have went for it if he was still in the final 8?
Depends on probably how, if Kansas played out the way, what was he, 5th? But yeah, 5th in Kansas. It would have been close because I think points-wise he would have been there. But
I mean, I think he would have had the guts to, you know what, I can get to the championship, or hey, if I win this race, or if I run out of gas, I'm going to risk not getting to the Final Four. Do you think he goes, nah, I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to pit, I'm going to get gas, and I'm going to still stay 15 points up going into Martinsville? Do you think he's cautious, or do you still think he goes for that win?
I think he's maybe a little more cautious. I think he pits a little later than aggressive than what he did. Just because you're coming into Martinsville this week, and he's good there too. So I think it depends on the situation, but
that was risky.
Yeah,
like you said, he was one more lap, and he runs out of gas.
He would have been outside the top 20. I mean, just like he did on the Roval. He tried at the Roval to get that win, and he ran out of gas and finished like 32nd, I believe. No, 30th. Yes. So, I think they would have been a little more cautious if they were still in the playoffs. But, hey, it paid off. One lap. That's all you had to get to is lap 334. And it goes to show you why races, I'm done with this overtime crap. And on the scheduled distance, because look, they all knew the distance was. If that race goes to overtime, that ruins his shot. He'd have to pit. There's no way he could have made it any farther.
Were there any cautions late at all?
Trying to think.
The last caution was the end of stage 2.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So everything worked out for Kyle under that scenario, because if the caution comes out, that's it. Especially if it comes out with a couple of laps to go. But yeah, that's what you need, a little luck. Kyle got a little luck, and Truex just didn't. Again, finishing 2nd again. And now at least he's going to go to a track where he has a lot of good momentum. So all of a sudden he's the favorite, and he should be at 3-1.
Yeah, cautious with him is can you pass inspection
Yeah.
for me, please? Can he not start
What was
last?
going on with
He's
that?
2 for 2 this round.
Back-to-back races, right?
Tells you. Yeah, tells you they manipulated the spoiler. Tells you that was clearly illegal because NASCAR gives those out. That's not something that's like a stock item. So that tells you they manipulated it a little bit. Like I think it was Stuart Haas a couple years ago in his cars, they made their own and they swapped them out. And there's a serial number on them. They got caught. So
what was the penalty? I mean, they don't get like a did the penalty
points,
in the did the penalty was it worse because it was back-to-back weeks?
No, I think it was
the same.
Yeah,
it was the part they were definitely cheating, and they got caught. And just like Blaney got the points deduction, ejection for crew chief. It was a pretty big penalty. I mean, as Eric said, that's a standard part. That's not one. It's very easy to figure out if you messed around with it because every single one is the same and they're serial numbered. So yeah, they got it confiscated, sent to the back, 20 points deducted. He's in a huge hole, which makes that his teammate Kyle Busch all that more, heart wrenching, I guess, for his playoff chances.
So his penalty, because he was penalized for a second consecutive race, he received an even stiffer penalty, or he would have received the same exact penalty.
He would have
same.
So don't you think he should get even more penalized after doing it back-to-back weeks?
Yeah,
maybe.
I think there should be something to that. Yeah, I mean, because clearly, and I wish he didn't say this in his post-race Zoom conference when it was small. I don't think it would have made a difference anyways. We still finished second. It's like, no, if it was small, then you wouldn't have been penalized. Like, you manipulated a part. You don't that's a stock part they hand you. When you show up to the track, they give you the spoiler, just like a restrictor plate, or they hand you these things that came from NASCAR. And NASCAR would be like, oh, we must have messed up with that. We can't penalize you. No, you did something to it, and they confiscated it, meaning they took it away. Like they said, you can't have that anymore. This is the one you got to put on your car. So, and they still finished second. So it's like, why did you do that for? That's the stuff that's because, I mean, look, he's 36 points down. He could be 16. That could be a difference of points in your way in or not. That's a huge penalty. And plus, you take 20 points off. So each spot is a point. So just pretend he finished 22nd. He crossed the finish line second, but he got 22nd place points. So that's a big thing. And with a car that was clearly good enough to finish second, it's like, well, why'd you have to do that? Why? I don't understand their psyche. Like we talked about this last week. It seems every week they're getting popped with something. And why? Why do you feel like you have to push the envelope like that? So I don't know. That's why I'm a little curious with this weekend with NASCAR's watching. You look at his teammates in June, 19th, 20th, and 24th, and he won. Did they push something there and just didn't get caught? And now they're under the microscope. Yeah. They're going to get their full-blown attention going through tech this weekend. So
that'll be interesting.
Does that take an advantage away? Yeah. That's why with 3-1, that's why I was kind of like, I might stay away from that because they're under that microscope to where maybe something they did in June and maybe even last year, it might get caught.
You are already 36 back. You're saying they don't additionally penalize you. So, if you did do something that was, that maybe you could have got caught, you didn't get caught like you guys implement, like you just indicated, Eric, that was a possibility. Don't you just go ahead and take the chance? Because you have to win the race anyway. Those should just go, hey, this was the car we had last time. If they catch us this time, whatever. Maybe they won't catch us because this is our car. And because we can't have the same equipment that our teammates had, we're really screwed. So we have to take the chance. And don't you go into that saying that?
I think you do. I mean, it's like that call at the football. Are you going to call holding on the left tackle 3 straight plays, or are you just going to just screw it? Just play the damn thing. Yeah. Just keep going. Like, are you really going to call the same penalty 3 straight plays? I think you've got to push the envelope. It's like the corner. Are you going to hold the receiver? Sometimes you get away with it, sometimes you don't. So, yeah, I mean,
is there any way for them to get in without winning?
I don't see a path.
No.
Not that far out. I don't think any of them really can. We haven't seen it yet. I mean, we talked about the last round with their 19, 20 points back. That the later you go, the better the talent gets. And you look at somebody like Keselowski, he's got 9 straight top 10 finishes at Martinsville, 8 of them in the top 5, and he's plus 25. How are you going to catch him if he does a repeat performance like that? You're at the mercy now of those 4. You've got to just go out and win. That's your really only path. You're not going to, unless Keselowski or Hamlin's got an issue early.
Yes,
getting
sort
stage
of like
points,
what happened with Harvick, except
factor.
he was able to come back from it. But something early.
Yeah.
Anything could happen. We've talked about that. That's why last week Harvick was the heavy favorite, and that's what we said. We all invested heavy in Harvick. We cautioned. We always cautioned about doing that, precisely because of what happened on Sunday, because you never know. And he still finished in the top 10, and he had that wreck early on. Actually, 16th, but he was in the top 10.
He was there in the end. He just got plowed.
He was a top 10
guy. So, that's why it is. Truex 3-1. I was willing to invest money in Truex this week just out of I know how desperate they are, and they have won here back to back. So I think it's worth it under that scenario. Who's in 5th right now? Is it Elliott?
Tied.
Elliott.
Bowman and Elliott.
30 points.
How many points? 30?
I have Elliott.
25.
25 each, aren't they?
So, but they're also, forget it. No way unless they win.
Yeah, that's a lot to make up. I mean, that's because even if Keselowski, you got Hamlin at 27 up, that's basically saying 2 stage wins are only going to get you 20 points. And even say they don't even score any points. Say Keselowski and Hamlin just don't score stage points, and Elliott or Bowman, either one of them sweep the stages, that's 20 points. You're still 5 points down going into that.
Well, this is one of those
stage,
racetracks that if you have a good car, you could completely dominate, and you could really gobble up major stage points and win the race. Or you can gobble up major stage points and finish, a strong second. I'm not sure that still will get you in, though. So probably not.
No, I think you're gonna see one of these races like Kurt Busch warned in the first round, where why wasn't there so much action? And he basically said that you don't want to risk tearing your car up early. You need it for the end because nobody was really close enough to points their way in, so they just need a win. I think those 4. To me, if they see Keselowski, Hamlin, and Harvick, they're probably going to get stage points or they're just untouchable right now. We need to maybe go off strategy and focus for track position for the final stage. Just throw away stage points. What's the point of getting stage points if you don't win? You've got to. This is what it's all about for them. So I think you're going to see the first couple stages maybe pretty tame. I don't think those 4 are really going to go for stage points. And why risk wrecking your car? Because you've got to win in the end, and you might see a wild final 150 laps because those guys have to win and they're going to push their way through. But you're not. What's the point of playing the stage point game? You've got to get track position. It seems to be the key factor in NASCAR races anyways. Position yourself in the final stage to be up front, not at the first couple stage. So yeah, if I were them, I would be conservative in the first couple stages in the sense, don't worry about cautions. Just run your race, get to the pit somewhere in the second stage to where when the third stage ends, you don't have to pit. You could cycle to the lead and then position yourself in that final stage with like Kyle did.
Time and that kind of thing.
Yep. That's kind of their only path.
So it's interesting, Eric. You're finally had a driver win on your fantasy team other than Chase Elliott. So because Kyle's on your team. Yeah.
Finally, yeah.
And even though you gobbled up 400 points for the win, you still finished second for the week. How does that happen?
It's such the other driver. It's my other team. My other drivers on. Was it Almirola? Probably did.
You had one other top 10 driver. That was Di Benedetto. Even though Boyer led 89 laps, which was 1 lap less. I mean, you had the 2 drivers that led the most laps.
Yeah. That's 2020.
How did Boyer finish 17th? What happened?
He tried the opposite of what Kyle was doing, and he didn't get the caution. And he was running he passed Kyle to take the lead. they told Kyle, just let him go. He's got to pit again and just draft off of him. And Boyer was hoping for that caution and didn't get it. That's the point where, hey, we're not going for a championship anymore, and let's just try to get a win. And kind of like what Kurt Busch had in Vegas. Let's hope for a caution and pin everybody else down. And didn't happen. So he was kind of a sitting duck at that point.
CJ, the reason you finished in first is because not only did you have Truex finishing second, you had Christopher Bell finishing third. And Blaney finished fourth. You had 5 drivers out of your 7 in the top 10, all 7 in the top 13. That was a big week. But yeah, Christopher Bell stole 150 points for you.
Yeah, I was really impressed with him. And he's been top 10s here as the season's wound down since he announced that he's going over to Joe Gibbs Racing. So I'm really excited to see what he can do with a even better car next season, because he's, for a rookie, he didn't get the luck like Cole Custer, but he's definitely having a great rookie season. He's turning heads for sure. And
then, of course, the reason you're in third place, and you've been in third place all year, Eric, is because Kyle Larson was one of your top drivers, and he was kicked out of the sport for a few months because now, as we have talked about for the past few weeks, it is official, and Kyle Larson is back with the sport. So what do you we didn't talk too much about it, but are you surprised at all, or were you surprised when you started to hear the news that it looked like Kyle Larson was going to be back?
I was a little shocked just for the way that all the sponsors kind of like revolted against him, and Chevrolet too. Like, hey, no, we're distancing ourselves from him and the sprint car team and everything going on. So I'm like, yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense. That's why I thought like maybe Ford or somebody like that would pick him up, a different manufacturer. But then you started hearing the rumors that he's coming back and Hendrick's after him. Like, hey, I mean, it makes sense. And Hendrick's got money. He can help fund that car and give a guy another chance. And then it started, you saw the dominoes started falling, like, oh, okay, it's clear. This is Larson's ride. So it became less and less shocking. And then with Hendrick saying that, yeah, we don't have any sponsors for that car still, it gives them time to find them. I think Larson doing this kind of media tour now and all these stations with trying to talk about it and people welcome him back. I don't think he's going to get a free pass forgiveness yet, but I think this will honestly quickly go away.
Is he going to have a press conference?
They did like a Zoom call, I think, last night or this morning or something about it. But
I hope somebody asked him the question of what happened. What happened? Yeah, what did you say? Why did you say?
Yeah, they did. I think it was like CBS. He was on, oddly enough. It was in his vocabulary, and he apologized for it, and he didn't mean it that way. It's just, and he said, which it doesn't take much investigation to figure out, because he races in Australia in the off season because it's their summer months and they do a lot of midget racing over there. And the group of guys I'm with in Australia use that word a lot, so I just used it with them, and it's like some pretty star-studded USAC drivers. And it's like, whoa, I'm shocked nobody's gone that direction yet, and. But he's sitting there saying that that's a term that they all say, and that he didn't realize how hurtful it was to the other race. And so that's why I went to this counseling, the diversity program, and spending the summer just learning about all this, and said it's erased from his vocabulary. It's like, okay, I don't know, man. Sure it is. Yeah, okay.
Athletes, you don't know whether to believe them or because a lot of them are actually that they're just so out of touch with what's really going on that you're not sure, is he for real or is he really that out of touch?
Yeah, I don't.
It's hard to say. Know. Yeah, it is.
It is. You don't want to speculate, but come on. I mean, we're only not even a year later, and the word magically disappeared from his vocabulary. It's like, I mean, okay, sure, okay, we'll see it, but. Yeah, I think he's going to be put under one of those zero tolerance. He's not going to be dumb enough to say it again. But he's a guy that just wants to race anyway. So he's got a good car. Now he can turn around. What if he wins the Daytona 500 something early? We're not even talking about it anymore at that point.
Well, if he wins the Daytona 500 to start the season, I guess it all depends on the climate of the country.
I was going to say, you got to look at the time. You got to look at the time in which it happened. What was going on in the world at that time. To think that he was ignorant of its meaning and the implications and the blowback it would get at that time, I think he is incredibly naive. Mm-hmm. But I agree. I think it'll go away quickly. I don't think it'll go away quickly if he comes out and wins the Daytona 500.
I said that's probably a bad race example. Yeah, there's a little more spotlight on that one. Maybe when the media kind of, okay, we're going back to our hibernation from NASCAR. Yeah, because that will get brought up. He wins there.
Yeah, that's, well, I mean, look, the other thing is NASCAR must have felt that, again, gets back to what we started with, is who did they?
He has a long list of things that he did. They listed it out in the press release. He's been working since then, doing everything he could and everything asked of him. So, in what they laid out for him, he repaid that debt, and now it's up to the press and up to the fans and the sponsors to see if they forgive him too. And we'll figure that out next year.
Well, that's why I would hope that NASCAR would know some of that already, of whether the fans are forgiving him. I would.
Well, and here's the thing. I think he's going to pick up, as bad as it sounds, like the Confederate flying people that didn't want to go away, like the Southern base.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yes,
he's
their poster boy now.
A lot of fans. Exactly. You know. Let's just call it now, because Daytona, it seems like it's always it looks like too good to be true. Frank Danica, Austin Dillon into 3. Jeff Gordon's last start, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s last start. They seem to win the pole for the Daytona 500. You know, Bubba Wallace with Michael Jordan, Denny Hamlin's winning the pole, and Kyle Larson starting second. You know that's how. Let's just play it out there. Number 23 and 5 are going to be on the front row, and what more to talk about. So let's call it here first. October 29th, 4:50 p.m. The season before, Bubba Wallace and Denny Hamlin, Jordan's cars winning the pole, and Kyle Larson starting second.
That's what I'd like to hear from. Let's hear from Wallace and Michael Jordan. What do they think about Kyle Larson coming back and getting another chance?
Jordan hasn't said anything, but see, Bubba and Larson were friends, and Larson's gotten a lot of support from like a Willie T. Ribbs, a J.R. Todd, a drag racer, the African American community, and racing has given him. Like, yeah, you paid your dues.
That's important. Yeah.
It is. That's why I feel like this thing will eventually quiet down. And yeah, Daytona 500 is probably a bad example.
Yeah, it'll quiet down.
National media that they don't pay attention to them, that's what they'll bring up. But any other race within the NASCAR racing community, I think this thing will be like, hey, we forgive you. Welcome back. And you're with a good car. So we'll see what he can do. I think for him, this is going to be the spotlight, because everybody kept touting him as great. And granted, he was great with Ganassi, but he never won a championship. He never was a legitimate week in, week out contender. Now you got a Hendrick car. Let's see what you're made of.
This is it. And
this is.
Yeah.
And Hendricks even said, which surprised me, tells you how much Hendricks going on the limb is. He's letting him run dirt still. Because Hendrick was against, like, Casey Kane when he went there, and it was hey, I know you like to run midgets and sprint cars, World of Outlaws. We're done with that as long as you're racing for here. I don't want to. I made an investment in you. I don't want you to get hurt off the track. And that was one of the selling points for Larson to stay at Ganassi was like, hey, race all you want. I don't care. You got a 25 race limit for me. I don't want you running every weekend, every day of the week, because he would. But to me, I feel like that helps you in the Cup car by going and tasting winning out there. And I would be the only owner that will let you run as much as you want, per se. Hendrick was always like, I don't want my drivers running that. So that's why everybody thought. I think that tells you how bad he wants Larson.
Okay.
That tells you, to me, that spoke more volumes.
That's how desperate Hendrick is right now.
That's what I took out of it, is he doesn't have a sponsor lined up. He's paying for him out of pocket, and he's saying you can run dirt. To me, that says, that's a lot of commitment.
I'm kind of surprised.
Hendrick.
I mean, Kyle Larson wouldn't give that up to come back to drive. Come on. Really?
Well, I think because like a Tony Stewart Haas like that would allow him to do that. I feel like there's other team owners that.
So there was a chance. So they all felt he was coming back. So let's get him on our team. Okay.
Yeah. I feel like that was Larson saying, you know what? There's some seats with Penske or Stuart Haas, or maybe in 2022 that, I'll just run dirt again another year. I had fun. I'll run here, maybe come run for them. And I think this was all along, Hendrick was always a front runner to get him. It was he going to allow him to run the dirt? If not, because Larson made that clear before any of this happened in April. He said in March, my next team is going to be the one that will let me run dirt still. If you don't let me run dirt, I'm not going to race there.
And all the teams are all settled now?
The big teams, yeah. Yeah, this is pretty much it now. It's all other than your 2 Spire cars, which are the 77, what the back marker that you don't.
So the biggest news then is for this off season, this silly season. What are the biggest changes now?
Larson, Bubba Wallace, Michael Jordan coming to NASCAR is a huge one.
And that's one driver, one team. Okay.
Yeah, and they'll have a Toyota. They haven't announced it yet, but the writing's on the wall. They're going to have a Toyota alliance. It's going to be essentially an alliance. While the Wood Brothers is to Penske, that team's going to be like that to Gibbs. It's going to be a 5th Gibbs car per se. You've got Keselowski staying, DiBenedetto 1 more year, Briscoe up to the 14. I think is big. Boyer out. He's out. He's retired.
Boyer's retiring.
Fox Sports. Yep.
He'll be good.
Yeah, he'll be good in Fox Sports booth.
Okay. And is this the last race for Kenseth?
Yeah, this will be.
And then Johnson two more for Johnson. And Newman, is he still racing?
He's still there. He'll be back next year too with Roush. So.
All right. And as far as our futures, I was looking here, and again, we still need Kevin Harvick to stay away from the championship if we're going to have any shot. But you guys are in pretty decent shape. CJ, you've got Martin Truex Jr. as your main driver right now. Unfortunately, he's never won in Phoenix, and crashed in March. But, he's there, and he could win this week as the favorite. But you also have Hamlin, Logano, Keselowski, and Elliott in the running. And Eric, you've got Logano now sitting in pretty good shape. You can make a boatload of cash if Logano wins the championship. You're in decent shape with Truex and Keselowski. Hamlin and Harvick, though, who might be the 2 top favorites, you're in rough shape. Hamlin, a little bit better shape. But at least you guys have enough drivers that there's a chance. Because for me, I've got 3 of them: Elliott, Hamlin, and Logano. I decided to put all of my investment money this week on Logano so I can get a 3rd driver into the mix. But Harvick is the one that really will screw us.
Yeah, Harvick's
his odds were terrible.
But, I mean, they are. And you got to look right now. He's oddly, if you take out his playoff points, him and Hamlin out of this 8 are, to me, the least amount of momentum, which is weird. I think it's flipped. They have not won this round, which is weird. You think the cream always rises to the top, and
not happening.
I don't see a really. I mean, Harvick's got 2 top 5s in his last 16 at Martinsville. I don't think he's winning this weekend. And Hamlin's got 3 top 5s in his last 4, but he was 20th in June, and he's only got 1 win in his last 10 races on the season. So, can they both make it to Phoenix on the wild card? Yeah, but you got to start looking if Keselowski and Logano are the other 2, and their strength is on these 750 horsepower tracks. Are they the favorites now?
Well, the thing with Keselowski, though, is he's like Truex. I mean, Phoenix. I mean, Keselowski's 0 for 22 at Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
He did lead 82 laps in March, finishing 11th. But Logano, that he's the one, the outsider, outside of the top 2, that probably has the best chance because of the fact that he won in March on the same track.
He's got a lot of momentum. And a weird stat I found I was looking up the other night, the driver to win the first race of the round of 12, or the round of 8, this round, they have either finished first or second in the championship every year since 2016. Logano won the championship in 2018 doing that because Truex was second. The driver to win the 3rd race, so this race weekend, has not won the championship since 2014 with Harvick. In fact, they finished last of the 4 the last 2 years. So, Logano has said after his Kansas win that these next 2 weeks for him was massaging the Phoenix car.
Sure.
What does it matter?
Absolutely. That's an advantage.
Texas and Martinsville.
Yep.
So does this give him advantage knowing now that you don't have a second guy locked in? Because Kyle Busch won. Now, all 7 other drivers are still racing, focusing
Sure.
on Martinsville. And Martinsville is the same horsepower package that you're going to see at Phoenix. So does Logano treat this as a glorified practice, 500-lap practice session? Do you go into this race saying, hey, I don't maybe set my car up for Phoenix or for Martinsville. I think I'm going to bring this backup car with Phoenix's setup and let's go play. Let's go see what we can do and what you like, what it doesn't like, what's it do, because it's the same horsepower package, and get even more data for next week where everybody else is, hey, I can't focus on next week. I got to get in this week.
Well, that's why I decided to add the 2. Logano made a lot more sense to invest in. And a matter of fact, you're sitting at futures right now and you haven't invested in anything, and you're going, where's my bargain out of the top 4 or any of the drivers in general, including Truex, who could win this week. He's the favorite this week. He's 14-1 to win the championship. You would think he should be the best bargain, but it's got to be Joey Logano. And at 4-1, that's not bad. I would probably say go after Logano right now at 4-1, and that would be my number 1 investment right now.
Yeah.
Completely agree. I think that it's an outside chance that Truex pulls off 3 wins in a row this week. And like you said, even if he does come into Phoenix, Joey's the one that has all the advantages in his column heading into that weekend.
And CJ's been saying this all year. I think it's almost been his motto. You can't win 2 races in a row. It's hard to win 2 races in a row. And for anybody but Joey Logano for this weekend to win a championship, you have to win 2 races in a row. You've got to win this week and you've got to win next week. Logano doesn't have to worry about that. So the law of averages just keeps stating Logano's your guy. Logano's your guy. And for 4-1 compared to everybody else.
Well, and that could be Keselowski, because Keselowski, even though he could easily, because he's, he could still get in without winning, but he's won New Hampshire and Richmond. Those are the 2 potentially closest racetracks.
3. He's won 3 races on 750 horse. 3 of his 4 wins this year are on 750 horsepower tracks.
Okay.
So
there you go.
You throw in Logano. Penske guys have been saying all year, this is our strength. This is our bread and butter. The 750 horsepower tracks, and you've got 2 of them now to close out the year. So that it's scary that if you get them both to the final round, that's a scary combo when they keep preaching, this is our tracks. These are our tracks. And Keselowski kept saying, look, the 550-mile, we're just trying to get by. He's got 2 top 6 finishes in this round on them. So what's he got under his sleeve for this weekend? And like we said, 8 top 5s in his last 9 Martinsville starts. He might be a guy that's worth looking for.
And
he's 7-1, I think, this weekend.
Is that Logano?
With that, 6-1. No,
Keselowski's 6-1. Logano's 7-1.
Yeah.
And if you take a look at our picks, we all took Truex. We all took Keselowski. We did not take Logano, but that's because he doesn't care about winning the race. But the only 2 drivers that we took, all together, Truex and Keselowski. But again, Keselowski's double the money. And why wouldn't you, if you were deciding on one of those 2 drivers, go with Keselowski? So if you had to take one of the 2 drivers at those odds, who would you take, Eric?
Keselowski, just for what I was saying. I feel like he's got a good car and he's double the odds. Now, if they were both head-to-head, same odds, probably Truex, but double the odds, and Keselowski's good on these 750 horsepower tracks, I'd go him.
What would you do, CJ?
Double your money, basically.
Keselowski, hands down.
And neither one of you guys matter. You both did Blaney at 7-1.
Yep.
Why go with Blaney, CJ?
Another Penske Ford. Logano last week, he led 34 laps from pole.
Yes. And he has 3 straight top 10s, Blaney?
3 straight top 5s.
Yeah. And Penske was 2, 3, 4 at Martinsville just in June. And you look at JGR and Penske, 4 of the last 5 in the top, or 4 cars in the top 5 in the last 3 races at Martinsville, and they've won 6 of the last 7. So Blaney, and you look at like Harvick and Hamlin's kind of struggling. Keselowski, his only downfall is 2 top 5s in his last 13 on the season. Blaney's right there. That I feel like Kyle opened the door last week as a non-championship driver could win. Blaney can do it this week.
Why not go with Hamlin, either one of you? Is it just a numbers game? Because Hamlin has a great history at the track. I know he didn't perform well here earlier this year in June, but his previous 3 races, 4th, 5th, and 2nd, he has 15 top 5s in 29 races. But neither one of you touched on Hamlin this week.
For me, it was the odds.
Yep.
Just the number.
Same. I just don't trust him right now with those odds. I mean, we talked about this last week. He needs to go out and get a good top 5 day. I mean, I think and right now, let's be honest, he's battling with Keselowski for that last spot. There's only 2 points between them. If he falls below him and say Truex wins, he's out. He's got to get a top 5 finish and just separate himself and go with some momentum. I mean, his last 10 weeks, he's got 3 top 5s. Right now, going to Phoenix, I don't feel comfortable for him being a championship contender. He's got to find it. So I don't see him pushing an envelope, roughing somebody up to get a win, unless it's one of those guys below battling him for that win. I think he just rides out for the top 5.
You did take Elliott,
I trust.
Eric. He's at 7-1. You're the only one to take Elliott. Why?
Yeah, 7-1. I thought he needs a win. He's almost was there a few years ago, and Hamlin knocked him out of the way and won, or for him to try to win.
He was 5th in June.
He's got 5 top 10s his last 7. Yeah, top 5. I think he's the best of the rest. I would think this is a Penske Gibbs race, and he's the best of the rest. And we've seen strategy calls out of him before to get him there. I feel like he's going to be aggressive, and he's either going to win or wreck trying. So for 7-1, why not
and you
try
took
it
Harvick, TJ. Why'd you go with Harvick?
He's been so good all season. I just feel like he's going to find a way to get to victory lane and get himself into Phoenix. It's been a really rough round for him. But I wanted to leave him in there just in case, he swings for the fences and ends up in victory lane.
No laps led in his last 8 at Martinsville for Harvick.
Yep.
So, but like you said, maybe he will be able to turn that around. Not bad to get 10-1 for the best driver right now.
Exactly.
In the series. And lastly, Eric, if you had to take a long shot, who would you take? Because I'm going to just throw a couple of bucks on Johnson for this week and next week, just for the hell of it. But Bowman, I thought, was worth it because even though he doesn't have a good history at this track, he's just racing really well.
Yeah, he is. He's looking well. But I think if I had to go, I wouldn't go too long. Christopher Bell would be the longest odds, but is he going to win in the 95 car? Realistically, probably no. Top 5 could be. Maybe someone like a William Byron. I mean, was 8th in June. He's got the Hendrick car. He's got 3 top 8s his last 4.
October.
Yeah, he's good on these tracks. So I would say probably Byron would be as far as I would go as the legitimate winner.
And Bowman was 6th in June too. That was like I think that's his best finish. Yeah, at
best
Martinsville.
Finish. Yep.
And who would you take for a long shot, CJ?
The exact same for me. It's the 3 Hendrick non-Chase Elliott drivers, and then Bell. Bell would probably be as far back as I'd go, just because he's been so impressive over the past couple of weeks.
Yeah, because Chevy hasn't won since what, 2016 at Martinsville.
Yeah, that was the last time they made the championship 4 too. There's a realistic position now that you may get to Phoenix again and no Chevrolet drivers in the Final 4 for the 7th, 8th, 4th straight year.
All right, so next week we will preview the championship. That should be a lot of fun. No rain in Phoenix, right?
Looking forward to
Yeah. Oh God. No, it's 2020. There's going to be a hurricane. It's going to come up and it's going to make its way into the desert.
No, it'll be a sandstorm.
It'll be it'll be a hurricane probably on Friday. A snowstorm from Flagstaff will make its way, and then the wildfires from California on Sunday. We can get all 3.
The wildfires or the sandstorms. That makes more sense. But either way, hopefully there'll be some racing next week, and we'll talk about it. Should be a lot of fun. Guys, appreciate it. RaceReviewOnline.net, Eric. You're going to be busy this weekend.
Oh, yeah. All stuff for Martinsville, and then probably some lead into Phoenix, too, just because we know that's going to be the big talking point. Once the checkered flag falls, it's going to be who's in and who's going to win the championship at that point. So we'll be focusing on both of those.
Double duty as well for RotoWire, CJ?
Yeah.
Triple
duty this weekend. Trucks, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup are all racing this weekend at Martinsville. And then, just like Eric said, after the checkered flag falls, we'll have a preview up, kind of a preview, more of a recap of the race, but with a definite look ahead to Phoenix next week on RotoWire.
Oh, by the way, how's the fans going to be in Phoenix?
I think 8,000, 9,000. It's they capped it. They were
not many.
gearing
So
towards a
not
sellout,
many,
but.
Okay.
No, it'll look like a
ghost
town.
Is that after the election, right?
Yep, that's Sunday after.
Yeah. So interesting. We'll see what happens. Maybe if one of the candidates win, there'll be like 30,000 people in Phoenix next week.
you never know. You literally.
But if another one of the candidates win, they might actually cancel the race altogether.
Probably cancel. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? Just Justin Turner can go celebrate with COVID in the field. Just let him in. Just let him in.
All right, guys. Championship week next week. We'll talk about it then. Thanks.